Test 6. This is the IELTS listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now turn to part 1. Part 1. You will hear a woman calling about repairing her broken fridge. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning, Ken's Appliance. Can I help you?
Yes, I'm ringing about my fridge. It's not working at the moment.
I'd like to find out a few more details if I may.
Yes, sure.
First, I need to make sure if your fridge is still covered by warranty.
Oh, right. I bought it just last week and it originally came with 2 years of warranty coverage, but I've extended the period to 3 years, so it's definitely under warranty.
Right. Now, what model is it?
Let me take a look. It should be somewhere on this warranty card. Oh, here on the top right-hand corner. It's a top mount.
And the colour of the fridge?
It's a silver one. It is really modern and perfectly matches the whole decor of my kitchen.
I've made a note of that. So, can you tell me the exact date you purchased the fridge?
I remember it was delivered on January the 15th. I must have bought it a couple of days earlier. Right, it was on the 12th.
OK, then what is the problem with the fridge?
Oh, it's a complete disaster. First, there's something wrong with the alarm. I mean, it's beeping continuously, even when the door is shut. It's really annoying. And there's also a problem with its temperature control. It's now 10 degrees. But I set it to be -8. It seemed to be working fine for the first couple of days.
Sorry about that, but rest assured, madam, we'll fix it all.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10. Where is your maintenance centre?
Ken's Appliance is located on Elm Street, just a few steps up from the station. And did the broken fridge cause any loss to you?
Yes, actually, it was used to store food for my sandwich shop.
Any idea of the total value of the loss?
Let me make an estimate here. The vegetables in the fridge cost me around $50 and the meat cost more than $100, so the overall loss is about $180. I didn't notice the abnormal temperature until something inside went bad and the whole fridge smelled terrible. I had to toss everything away. Luckily, no one ate the food inside and got sick.
That's a relief.
But the damage has really caused me great inconvenience. I've nowhere to put the raw materials and thus could not open for business these days. The longer it takes to fix the fridge, the more it will cost me. You know, I have a whole bunch of bills to pay, like water, electricity, rent.
Don't worry. We'll attend to your problems as soon as possible.
I need to know precisely when you can send a guy to fix all the problems. It is very urgent. Is there anyone who can keep me posted on the latest information?
How about this? I'll have the manager ring you later. Does that work for you?
OK, I'll be expecting his call then. Do you know what exactly is wrong with the fridge?
For your case, we'll assume it's the door that has to be fixed. The abnormal temperature and the noisy alarm both indicate that.
Yes, indeed. I've just noticed that the door is dented.
It may have to be replaced then, but we'll have to check the availability of our repair guy first. We'll phone you back later.
OK, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1. Part 2. You will hear a tour guide from Travel-Light Travel Agency giving some information about a trip to southern Scotland. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sally, tour guide from Travel-Light Travel Agency. Today, I'm going to introduce a great trip to southern Scotland for you. I'm sure you will find it a fantastic place. There is lots to see in southern Scotland. To begin with, we will go to Sheepfold, which has 1 or 2 beautiful gardens. One thing that's definitely worth doing is climbing to the top of the mountain. You'll be fascinated by the beautiful scenery alongside the mountain road. When you get to the top, you can overlook the coastline and enjoy the stunning view. From there, we will go on to Brownmare. Brownmare used to be famous for its farm, but it is being refurbished at the moment and isn't likely to be reopened by the time we go there. But you can walk for hours there in the peaceful green surroundings along a wide variety of tracks. I think you will be struck by the beautiful roses in Mother Nature. In Doris, there were several old barns, but they have been converted into a special section where animals and plants are protected. From there, you can see a range of rare breeds as well as flowers. This place is usually favoured by university students as a destination for their field trips. Then we will go to Lodge Estate, which is the most favourite location for children, as they can watch the baby deer. But remember, don't give food to them. Photography is allowed there, and when you leave, you can get 1 free photo at the exit. But please don't move rocks or branches to take photos. You should leave the site intact. Our next stop is Auden. I strongly recommend that you visit the ancient town, which was constructed nearly 1,000 years ago. There is not much of the original buildings left, but still plenty to see. The site is being excavated, and you'll be able to help out if you want to. Finally, we will spend some time in East Lake, which changes with the seasons, with different events happening at different times of the year. At the moment when we arrive there, it will be the most spectacular month with the arrival of Canada geese. I'm pretty sure that this visit will give you an unforgettable experience. Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20. Some of you have asked me about the place where we're going to stay. So, next, I will introduce different types of accommodation there. First, many tourists may consider visiting a bed and breakfast, also called a B&B, as they don't have to be worried about what to eat in the morning. But you have to pay attention that this type of accommodation is only available on a daily basis. The cheapest possible option is to stay in a hostel, but you should be aware that sometimes you are provided with only a single bed with several people sharing the same room, and meals are not included. But some people think they have never had such an experience before, that they want to have a try. More importantly, they don't have to change accommodation for a whole week. For those who want to visit the castles, I recommend you stay in the cottages nearby with beautiful surroundings. The owner promises that the rent can be paid every 7 days, so just be relieved to have a peaceful life there. For our members, I will introduce some benefits you can get from our travel agency. As for the accommodation I just mentioned, someone has asked if we offer a discount. I'm afraid to tell you this is only for premium members who can benefit from 10% off the original price. For those self-driving travellers, you might be interested in the parking service. Parking space is always limited at the hotel, so we only offer free parking service to premium members as well. I'm afraid ordinary members have to pay a fee for parking. The good news is all of you can enjoy our guide service without any charge, including the visit to attractions like the castles. But remember, the entrance fee has to be paid by yourself. Oh, I nearly forgot, you can also receive regular copies of magazines about the native food and attractions in Scotland absolutely for free. It's a gift for you. I hope you will like it. Okay, that's all I want to share today. If you have any more questions about the trip, please call me at... That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2. Part 3. You will hear 3 students discussing their research findings on four-wheel drive vehicles. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25. Hello, guys. How have you been getting on with your research on four-wheel drive vehicles?
Fine, and we've been working hard on that to collect relevant data. Shall we discuss what we've each found together?
Yes, and then we can think about how we will put our data together. As you see, we have to do a presentation in next week's marketing seminar, okay?
Yeah, sure. I think first we should talk about the purposes for which these cars were originally designed.
Oh, I found some data on that here. Well, four-wheel drives, or sports utility vehicles as they're officially known, SUVs for short, were actually first designed for off-road use by those who need to get to the areas with quite a distance. But the interesting thing is that at present, they are also frequently used by people who live in cities.
That's right. From this, we can see how they make use of them differently. Then, in the second part, let's talk about their advantages, shall we?
Yeah, let me look at here. Okay, first, they're generally used for commercial reasons, right?
Yes, that's the same with what I've found.
Okay, what else?
Well, another advantage from my notes is that the power of the engine is increased.
Yes, I think that's a big benefit. In addition, I've got one more point here. SUVs are heavier, so they're suitable for towing larger loads.
So that's why SUVs have become so popular in the market then?
Oh, that's part of it. But they've gained popularity now for rather different reasons. For example, relevant research shows that people buy them for business mainly because of the image they present. And nowadays, many moms like to drive their kids to school in SUVs because they think that they're safe. So that's another reason.
And then I think a larger seating capacity is also a factor. You know, we can get about 7 people into one SUV, while in an ordinary car, there are only 5 seats.
Yeah, and I think that's why families with 2 or more children like to buy SUVs.
Right, and another thing I've found from my research is that drivers tend to buy SUVs with higher seats, which means they can get a better view of the traffic ahead.
Yeah, so these are all the reasons. Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
But I think some of these reasons just don't work. For example, to some extent, SUVs are safe, but if we look at them in a collision, they can do terrible damage to a small car. So I think it's just a misconception.
I agree with you. So next, shall we discuss the disadvantages of SUVs?
Okay, so firstly, from what we've just considered, we can see that SUVs are harmful in central areas and the damage they cause is highly related to their weight, right?
Yes. And I've also got something about their chassis. The bodywork on SUVs is stiffer, so it doesn't crumple to absorb impact in an accident the way it does in smaller cars.
Moreover, as SUVs have a high center of gravity, it's more likely for them to roll over than ordinary cars. That's another disadvantage from my research.
Good. So these are all the disadvantages. How about the last part?
Well, maybe we could end up with a few ideas on how to limit the use of these SUVs.
Okay. For one thing, I think we should restrict them to people like farmers, to whom SUVs are used very frequently.
That's a good idea, but it might be difficult to enforce. And I think companies could also increase the insurance paid by SUV drivers, as we know it will cause more damage when there is an accident.
That's a good idea too. I think we've got some very useful information together. Next, I'll write up these notes onto the slide so that everyone can see them when we give the presentation in the seminar.
Good idea.
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3. Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture on learner persistence. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today, I'm going to talk about my research on learner persistence. Let me first introduce why I wanted to carry out such research. As a university teacher, I found learners' responses to certain things vary a lot. For example, some students may completely give up their degree studies because of a temporary illness, while others may overcome all kinds of difficulties and try their best to continue their studies. The latter are the students with learner persistence, and this is the group that I'm particularly interested in. To do the research, first, I selected my undergraduate students as the research sample, with a total of 200 people. All the students selected were seniors, and they had already stayed in the course very well. Although the sample was drawn from a range of ages, there were deliberately a large number of mature students, and there was one thing in common. All of those students were living at home in the local region. I wanted to maintain this element of consistency, so I didn't include those coming from outside this area. Then I designed a questionnaire that aimed to find out what their concerns had been when they began the course, and then what had made them stick at the 3-year studies in university. Findings from the first section pointed out that there were different concerns when they started their university studies. For example, some worried about the financial circumstances, while others were concerned about their careers after graduation. However, the research found the biggest concern for mature students tended to be the relationship with their children at home. Next, I wanted to find out what had made those students persist with their university studies. So in the second part, I designed my questionnaire under 3 main headings: social and environmental factors, other factors, and personal characteristics. And I included 3 levels of importance for each of these 3 headings. At the first level, those points identified by the respondents were regarded as the most important in learner persistence. Let's look at them one by one. For the first column, that's the social and environmental factors, a significant number of students said it was crucial to have effective support, whether from their tutors or friends. For other factors, students were driven not so much by high grades, but by what they regarded as a success in their studies. This was quite different from what I'd expected. Regarding personal characteristics, a sizable percentage of participants said they liked to take up a challenge, which was seen as a very important factor. Then at the second level of importance, in the first category, many of the respondents regarded the life they enjoyed at school as an important social factor because this gave them good experiences. In the second column, other factors, a lot of people said that the most significant thing was decent health, which was also conducive to their persistence in the studies. And then, under the third column, quite a number of respondents had the same view that they should have a range of interests in their everyday lives, because this could broaden their minds and give them a sense of perspective, which less persistent learners might lack. And then on to the third level of importance, under social factors. Several respondents said that they had been keeping close to their tutors in their 3-year university studies. In the second column, for other factors, they mentioned it was very important to live in a family without any problems. And finally, under column 3, they talked about the capacity for multitasking, which was the ability to simultaneously deal with different problems. From these findings, I've concluded some recommendations on how to promote students' learner persistence. Primarily, I suggest that we should distribute questionnaires to the freshmen so as to make clear of their maturity when they begin the course. This is really our most important concern. Secondly, I propose that we should find ways to offer some training sessions to the students who are selected to encourage them to play the role of advisors. The purpose of this is to make support much more approachable to other students. Thirdly, in the evening and night, when offices are closed, students may have no one to turn to for help. As a result, I think we should provide online services to those in need. Researchers have pointed out that this service is actually more accessible than traditional services. And finally, if students don't submit their assignments before the deadlines, I think we teachers should contact the students first rather than waiting for the students to come to us. So, this is all I want to share on my research. Now, let's turn to the next part. Are there any questions about...
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4.